Welcome to T News 9 channel. Today we're diving into chapter 16 of the novel My Wife is a Gangster, titled A Quiet Day. The city didn't explode that morning. There were no urgent meetings, no frantic calls, no blaring alarms. Just the soft, warm glow of sunlight streaming through the window. She woke up late, really late for someone like her. There was no power suit, no protective armor. Instead, she wore an old, oversized sweater, the one she used to steal from me all the time. "What do you want to do today?" I asked, breaking the comfortable silence. She paused, thinking for a long moment, a look of genuine uncertainty on her face. "I don't know," she finally said, "and that feels strange." It was a simple admission, but it carried the weight of a life usually planned down to the second. We decided to go to the local market. For the first time in forever, there were no bodyguards trailing behind us, no security detail creating a sterile bubble. Just us, maintaining a discreet distance from the crowd. She stopped to look at some fruit, getting into a playful argument with the seller over the price. And she lost. A genuine, unrestrained laugh escaped her lips, the kind of sound I realized I hadn't heard in months. It was music. Back home, we attempted to cook. Predictably, she burned the rice. Again, and so, we ordered takeout. Again. While we waited for the food to arrive, we sat on the floor, our backs resting against the couch, just doing nothing. There were no grand plans, no heavy burdens to carry. The weight of her world seemed to have lifted, if only for a little while. She rested her head on my shoulder, the gesture both familiar and precious. "Do you miss your old life?" she asked softly, her voice barely a whisper. I shook my head without hesitation. "I miss moments like this," I admitted, my voice equally quiet. She nodded in understanding. "Me too," she confessed. For those few precious hours, the powerful queen, the feared gangster, simply disappeared. There were no titles, no expectations, no fears looming over us. There was just a woman who, it turned out, cherished quiet days and was endearingly bad at cooking. That evening, as the sun began to set, her phone buzzed, a familiar intrusion from the world outside. She glanced at the screen, her expression unreadable for a second. Then, she turned it face down on the table. Chapter 17 of the novel, My Wife is a Gangster, titled What They Say About Her. They talk about her, a lot, in whispers, in fear, in stories that grow darker each time they're told. They say she's ruthless, cold, a monster who smiles while the city burns. They say no one dares to look her in the eyes, that her gaze can freeze your soul. I hear those stories all the time. I hear them while sitting right beside her, watching her struggle to open a stubborn jar lid, her face scrunched up in frustration. It's a strange contrast, this legend and the reality I know. At meetings, it's just like the stories say, people avoid her gaze. Hands shake. Voices drop to a hushed murmur when she enters the room. She notices. Of course she does. She sees everything. One night, after a particularly tense meeting, she turned to me, her voice quiet. "Is that how you see me? As a monster?" I didn't answer right away. I thought of the battlefield. The cold orders she gives. The blood that's been shed on her command. It's all true. But then, I thought of mornings like today. Her hair a complete mess, her forgotten coffee gone cold on the nightstand, and the way she laughs at the stupidest jokes. "No," I finally said, looking her straight in the eye. "I see the person who stays awake all night just to make sure everyone else can sleep safely." She looked away, a flicker of something vulnerable in her eyes before it was gone. "They don't need to know that," she whispered, her voice firm again. "They only need to obey." That statement hurt. Not because it was wrong, but because I knew it was a necessary burden she carried. Her reputation is her armor. Later that evening, I heard the guards outside our door retelling her legend to a new recruit. They were adding new, terrifying details, each word stripping away another piece of her humanity. She stood beside me, listening silently to the monstrous caricature they painted of her. When the voices faded, she closed the door and leaned her forehead against mine, the weight of her world pressing down. "Promise me something," she said, her voice barely audible. "What?" I asked. "Don't ever forget who I am when no one else is watching." I held her close, feeling the slight tremor in her hands, because I knew the truth. The world sees a monster, a terrifying force of nature, but the monster is the shield. And behind that shield, there is still a woman who is afraid of being seen, afraid of being known.
Chapter 18 of the novel My Wife is a Gangster, titled The Throne Stands. The city slept peacefully that night. No gunfire, no sirens, no warnings. That was how we knew she had won. Her victory wasn't announced with a bang, but with a profound, unnerving quiet that settled over everything. The city, once a battleground of constant power struggles, had finally bent the knee. Life within our organization changed almost overnight. Meetings, which used to be long, tense affairs filled with debate and posturing, became brief and efficient. Orders became rare because no one dared to question them. Her authority was absolute, a silent understanding that ran deeper than any spoken command. At gatherings, you could feel the shift in the air. People bowed lower, their movements filled with a respect that bordered on reverence. They spoke less, choosing their words with extreme care. More importantly, they listened more, hanging on to her every word. This wasn't just fear, though there was plenty of that. It was certainty. She had proven her strength, her cunning, her right to rule. She no longer needed to make grand displays of power or issue threats. The throne stood untouched, unchallenged. Her reign was a fact, as solid and immovable as the skyscrapers that dotted the city skyline. One evening, as the city glittered below, she stood by the window, her silhouette framed against the sprawling lights. I watched her, a quiet observer to her quiet reign. "All this silence," she said, her voice barely a whisper, yet it cut through the stillness of the room. "It makes me uneasy." I moved to stand beside her, the city's glow reflecting in her eyes. I asked, "Why?" She didn't look at me, her gaze still fixed on the world she now controlled. "Because silence means trust," she replied, a hint of weariness in her tone. "And trust is fragile. It's a glass bridge I have to walk every single day." Then, she turned to me, her eyes finally meeting mine, searching for something. "Do you regret this life?" The question wasn't sudden. I knew she had been carrying it for a long time, a heavy weight beneath the crown she never asked for but wore so well. I thought about the chaos we had navigated, the blood on our hands, the impossible choices that had become our daily routine. I thought about the life we had left behind and the one we had built together from its ashes. After a moment, I answered simply, "No." A slow breath escaped her lips, a sigh of relief that seemed to carry months of tension with it. "Good," she said softly, "because I don't know how to be anyone else anymore." The admission hung in the air, a raw and honest confession. That night, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, she rested her head on my shoulder, her body feeling lighter, freer than it had been in months. The world had accepted her rule. But what mattered more, what finally brought her peace, was that she no longer fought it herself. She had accepted her throne.
Chapter 19 of My Wife is a Gangster, titled My Answer. She asked me again, but this time it was different. Not as a queen, not as a boss, but as my wife. "Do you regret choosing me?" The room was suddenly so quiet, all the guards were gone. The usual distance between us had vanished. It was just us. I didn't answer right away. My mind raced back through our life together. I thought about that dark alley, the blood, the cold steel of the knife I kept under my pillow, the endless wars we fought, the sleepless nights spent worrying, the terrifying moments when I thought I was going to lose her forever. But then, my thoughts shifted. I thought about our mornings, the taste of her terrible coffee, the smell of burnt rice, the sound of her quiet laughter filling the room. These were the moments that mattered. Finally, I looked at her and spoke. "I chose you," I said. It wasn't about the power. It wasn't about the throne, or the entire world that came with it. "You were already standing in the dark," I continued, my voice steady. "I just decided not to walk away." Her eyes, usually so sharp and guarded, softened. "What if this life never gets easier?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. A small smile touched my lips. Then we stopped waiting for easy. I reached out and took her hands in mine. They felt small, but I knew the strength they held. I don't regret the danger. I don't regret the fear. I met her gaze and said the truest thing I knew. I only regret the days I almost doubted you. She leaned forward and kissed me. It wasn't an urgent kiss, not a desperate one. It was the kiss of someone who had finally stopped asking questions and found their answer. That night, there were no titles between us. No queen, no subordinate. Just two people who chose each other, and in that moment, chose each other all over again. Chapter 20 of the novel My Wife is a Gangster, titled The Queen and Her Man. Right now, the underworld is quiet, but it's a tense kind of quiet. Not because of chaos, but because of a fragile balance. And at the very heart of this balance, there's a queen. She sits there, calm and completely unchallenged. When she gives an order, it travels like lightning. Conflicts that used to rage for weeks now end before they even begin. Why? Because everyone in this world knows one undeniable truth. The queen is absolutely terrifying. This isn't just talk. She's earned her reputation. She has burned entire cities to the ground. She has shattered powerful families. She has stopped wars with a single quiet word. Her power is absolute, her authority unquestionable. But here's the twist. That's not what truly scares the hardened criminals and power players of the underworld. What really makes their blood run cold is the man who stands beside her. And it's not for the reasons you might think. He's not a mountain of muscle. He doesn't command vast armies or have a reputation for violence. The reason he is feared is far more subtle and far more profound. He is feared because she, the queen of this dark world, listens to him. He is the one person whose voice can reach her. When the night falls and the city quiets down, the queen takes off her heavy crown. In those private moments, she isn't a ruler. She's just a woman, leaning against the man she chose. He doesn't control her or give her commands. He simply reminds her. He reminds her of mercy when her instincts scream for vengeance. He reminds her of restraint when her power could easily crush everything in its path. He reminds her of why, after all this time, she still cares about holding this broken world together. The underworld is a place that understands power. It's a simple, brutal language of strength and dominance. But love? That's a completely different language. Love makes power unpredictable. It introduces variables that can't be calculated or controlled. And something unpredictable is far more dangerous than simple, raw strength. So as the city lights begin to fade into the darkness, they stand together on a balcony overlooking their domain, a queen and her man. They aren't ruling above the world, looking down on it. They are holding it steady, a silent, powerful force keeping the balance. One with the power to destroy everything, and the other with the strength to hold it all together. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.